Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
Okay, everybody, welcome to this week's Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen. This week's show is entitled Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Some of you may remember that movie starring, who was in that movie? John Candy and Steve Martin, yes.
And Estelle Getty.
But we're not talking about the movie. We are, in fact, talking about songs. And what I challenged everyone to do was come up with, name a favorite song about planes or flying, a song about trains or traveling by train, and a song about cars or driving, not Bitch and Camaro, and tell us why you like them or a little bit about the song. So I will start with planes, and the song I chose is by the Box Tops. It's called The Letter, and it's it's a young 16-year-old Alex Chilton's first professional recording. He was in a band before this. Apparently, according to the Wikipedia page, I did some slight research. It took them 30 takes to get the basic tracks before they added the horns and all that stuff. That's because the band was so green. I think they never had done a professional recording. And although it's said that Alex was told how to sing the song, and in fact, I enjoy that he was told to pronounce it aeroplane and not airplane. Also, the drummer does not play one single fill in the song. It's just the same beat through the whole thing, which is pretty crazy. And I love the ending of the song where they just sort of change key and they just sort of, and there's that sample that they pulled off a record from the library of a plane taking off. And it just kind of drifts off into nothing. There's some like la la la's or whatever. That's the end of the song. It's like a 2-minute song, and it was like a #1 hit or whatever. So it was their biggest hit, although they did have a couple more after that. And the video link I found of them performing this song was from some TV show. They're lip syncing, and it looks like they're just all so very high. They can barely pull it off. It's very funny. The next segment is going to be trains, and I chose a song by Wayne the Train Hancock called Freightline Blues, and it's from his album That's What Daddy Wants, and it's an old sort of Hank Williams style song. It's got classic pedal steel making train whistle sounds, which I really like. I love pedal steel in songs, and notably there's no drums on this song. You've got the upright bass slapping providing the rhythm, and in fact most of the songs on this album, which I like the whole album, it's mostly the bass that provides the rhythm. There's only a couple tracks that use actual drums. And the last song I'm going to talk about is the song Lowrider by War. This is my go-to earworm eradicator, okay? If you've got an earworm and you want to get rid of it, just think of this song, because I could listen to this song all day and just walk around with that in my head. And it's a song that makes, yeah, Rodney's got it. It just makes me think of summertime. I just love the song. And there's a link we'll provide to the video. They sort of put out like a little mini film of some lowriders at some festival somewhere. It's really cool. So those are my 3 songs. The Letter by the Box Tops, Freightline Blues by Wayne Hancock, and Lowrider by War.
Woo! Although I'm a little saddened by The Letter. I had in my notes, you broke my heart, guy. I was going to anyway. Thank God nobody said The Letter by Alex Chilton, and you broke my heart right out of the gate. It was you, Fredo. Fredo, it was you. You broke my heart. Okay, I actually have a couple for each of these. I had trouble making up my mind. I think I'm next. Am I next? I'm next.
Yeah, you're next.
Okay, so I'm going to do a countdown. We'll start with trains. At the #3 spot, it's The Cure with Jumping Someone Else's Train. Then at the #2 spot, it's the OJs with Love Train, which I actually saw performed by the OJs along with Cat Stevens, Ozzy Osbourne, R2-D2, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the Rally for Sanity or Fear. I was a special guest. And then the #1 song about trains, the KLF with Last Train to Trans Central. There can be no other Greatest Train song. Now for flying, I don't think there are any good songs about planes. And I don't like the Jefferson Airplane. And it's really, I have trouble thinking of a good song about planes, so I went in another direction here. The first thing I did was I started with the song Icarus by Go Flight, because Icarus, the first person to fly, if you know your mythology. And as they say in the movie 24-Hour Party People, if you don't know who Icarus is, read more. And then in the number 2 spot, Hot Ride by The Prodigy, which takes the up and away in my beautiful balloon and subverts it, makes it really evil. The video for Hot Ride is one of my favorite videos of all time. It's extremely violent and scary, and I know people will say it gives them nightmares. So you're going to want to see that. All right, the number 1 song I have for songs about flying, My Zeppelin by the Jazz Butcher. I love this song, especially since I found out that Jazz Butcher wrote it because his sax player would always talk about how much he wanted a Zeppelin, and he wrote the song and then didn't let the sax player play on it. So it's cruel, but yeah, he's not a cruel. Pat Fish isn't a cruel person. Well, I think he's passed on, but he wasn't a cruel person. He was a lot of fun. All right, for automobiles, a number 3 spot, it's Queen with I'm in Love with My Car. Which was not one of my favorite songs up until I saw the TV series version of Good Omens, and it was so well worked into there that it jumped way up in my heart. Up next would be David Bowie with Always Crashing in the Same Car, and there's also an 11 Shadows cover of it that's really good. We'll recommend that. All right, now, before I read off the number 1 song about cars, I would like to go to a letter. Leslie Van H. writes and say, Dear Casey, 54 years ago tonight, August 8th, some friends of mine and I got a little silly in the Hollywood Hills and did something I kind of regret. Well, Leslie, we've all been there. So for me and my friends, Linda, Sadie, and Charlie, could you dedicate a song about a car? Of course I can, Leslie. And that song is Clack with Le Car from a fantastic album introducing the 1984 Renault Le Car. It's a great album. It is a great song. And I don't know why this doesn't come up on more lists about cars, but once you hear it, it will play in your head. It's basically a danceable version of Lee Iacocca telling you about Le Car. All right, so those are mine.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, for the airplane, I chose Leaving on a Jet Plane by Peter, Paul, and Mary. It's originally written and recorded by John Denver, but Peter, Paul, and Mary had the number 1 hit with it in 1969. And the singer is, in case you don't know the song, is about to go somewhere on a jet plane, not a prop plane or not a train, but a jet plane. And he doesn't know how long he's going to be away or if he'll ever come back again. And he's contemplating whether he should wake up his lover or not. And I guess kiss her and hug her. But when he does come back, if he does come back, he's bringing back a wedding ring. So I guess it means he'll marry her. In the 60s, it's ambiguous where he's going, but in 1969, I think most people would assume he was going off to Vietnam. And I like this song. I like the melody, and I like the way Peter, Paul, and Mary do it. And also John Denver did a good job with it. It's his song. And the train is Midnight Train to Georgia. That's the song I chose, by Gladys Knight and the Pips. They were not the original recording artists. And that actually, the original was recorded in 1970 by Cissy Houston. And in fact, if she hadn't recorded this song, it may not have been even a train going to Georgia. It would have been a plane going to Houston, because that was the original title that the composer gave it. It was called Midnight Plane to Houston, but Cissy Houston wanted them to change destination, so he not only changed the destination, but he changed it from a plane to a train. And it's basically about a person he winds up in Hollywood wanting to be a star or something. It doesn't make it, so he or she is going back to Georgia on the midnight train, and the lover, in this case, the singer, is contemplating whether he or she should be on that train or not. So the motif is leaving on the mode of transportation. Lastly, car. I'm breaking away from that, and I'm going with "Drive My Car" by a band called the Beatles.
I've heard of them.
From England. It's a 1965 track. It's the first track off the Rubber Soul album, and it's kind of a rock and roll song. I like the catchy melody of it, and the fact that the singer is Paul McCartney, and he's asking a young lady what she's going to do with her life, and she says, "I'm going to become a star, famous on this big screen, and if you want, you can drive my car." I guess not recognizing that he's Paul McCartney of the famous band the Beatles, but he eventually says, "Okay, I'll take you up on your offer," and then the twist is there is no car. But then the car may not even be the point of this,
That wasn't even the real Paul McCartney.
It wasn't the real Paul
And the car is the car from the James Brolin film, The Car. The ones like Jaws, but it's a car. That's what it is.
So yeah, this always enthralled me as a kid, this song. There is
Joe,
no car.
Midnight Train to Georgia has, seriously, my favorite line probably in any song, which is that line, "I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine." The spacing going up to that vocal, the phrasing and everything, and then that little space after, it's like they drop a little lyrical bomb in there. It's one of my favorite things ever. It's pure genius.
Yeah, and it became the Gladys Knight and the Pips signature song. So that's it for me.
Cool. For the flying or plane song, I had a lot in my head, but one I settled on was a song by Laurie Anderson called "From the Air," and it's really bizarre because it's the music it's these horns and it's very repetitive, and then she suddenly says like, "This is your captain speaking," and then it's like spaced out, and then it's like, "We're going to be preparing for a crash landing now," and then it's like, "Captain says put your head on your knees, put your head on your hands, on your hips," like, and it gets weirder from that. And I think I put it on like a mix for like when the kids and I were driving up to Canada a few years ago, and the kids, they know this song and they think it's obnoxious because it's very repetitive and it's kind of discordant notes together, but I love it. I think it's hilarious. For a car song, I chose this really obscure song from a band that I've never heard anything else by called Opus 1, and it's called Backseat 38 Dodge. And Joe put this on a mix for me, like, I don't know, 20 years ago or something. And it's always it's stood out to me. It's got a great like vocal harmonies and this like piercing organ sound. And I never, back then you couldn't research as much on the internet, but more recently I found that it's about this like art installation of a 38 Dodge, and in the back were like a couple, I think in like a sexual act maybe. And I think that's where the inspiration for this, like, so he's saying like, why can't I see in the backseat? So he's kind of like curious about what's happening in the backseat of the 38 Dodge. And for the train song, Rodney, I'm glad you mentioned jumping someone else's train, because there's a Cure song called "Another Journey by Train" that's on the cassette version of the "Staring at the Sea" singles. For some reason, it's not on like the CD. I don't know if it's on the record, but it's instrumental and it's really like a driving beat. It's really cool. to check that out. But what I really wanted to choose was a song called Train Song by Vashti Bunyan. It came out in the 60s, mid 60s. And from what I understand, she put this one album out and then like got married and had kids, and people like were contacting her in like the 2000s, and I think she started making music again. But the song is great. Her voice is very soothing. It has kind of like the rhythm is kind of like a train kind of beat feel. But it almost sounds like it almost feels like a mother like rocking you the way she's singing this song, like sitting on a train. It's cool. You should check that out. That's it. This was a good one. I like this one.
I think maybe I have some homework to do and put together an online playlist of all these songs that might be interesting.
Yeah.
So
For a car or a road trip or something.
yeah. Okay, thanks everybody. Good answers.
Yeah, hit the links, because I'm sure we'll have all the videos and stuff where you can get the stuff in the links. At least I will.
Let's go to recommendations now. How about? So I would like to recommend a YouTube channel by a fellow named Dave Huxtable, and he is an English gentleman who is a polyglot. And if you don't know what a polyglot is, that is someone who is fluent in more than 5 languages. And Dave, according to his website anyway, is fluent in 10 languages. And the 2 videos that I stumbled on just purely by accident are amusing. He's very interesting. He can speak in the languages that he's talking about in his videos. The one is called the Scots language, in which he dissects and explains the Scots language, which is not just the Scottish accent, it's actually a Gaelic derivative. And he explains that, and it's quite interesting. And also the second one is he does a tour of the accents of England, which are quite varied around the country. He's explaining some linguistic serious information, but it's also, he has a sense of humor about it, and he comes up with these kind of ridiculous sentences and examples to use the phrasing and so forth. He actually kind of cracks himself up sometimes. So I recommend you check it out if you have any interest in language and accents and that kind of thing. So that's what I recommend.
People say that fellow over there is a polyglot, and I say I don't care about a man's religion as long as he doesn't use my towel. Okay, first recommendation here, music-wise. The band Ashbury Heights, whom I've loved for a decade and more, have a new song out called Tunguska. I think we all remember the Tunguska Blast of 1908. And it features Corlix, and it is really, really good. Now, some of you might listen to it and go, this is a pop song. But again, there's our version of pop music that folks like all of us like is pop music with the rough edges left on. And they leave the rough edges on this. It's a really, really good song, and I believe you will like it. All right. Then, of course, there's my new edition of my radio show is out, where you can hear all sorts of weird stuff like Ashbury Heights. And then I was a guest on the most recent episode of BH Us, where you watch a movie with the host and then discuss it. We watched the movie The Last Minute, which is a movie I'd never seen, and I still wake up in the middle of the night and pinch myself trying to convince myself it exists. Not only was I a guest on it, but for season 13, the intro and outro music was done by me. So the first time I've ever got to do something like that. So I'm really, really full of myself today. Can you smell it from there? All right. Before I do my next recommendation, I'd like to read a letter. Dear Casey, even though Tippy was not a person, Tippy was a member of our family. Tippy just recently passed away at the age of 47. Yes, Tippy was a 47-year-old striped-ass baboon. Damn it! I come out of an up-tempo song like Ashbury Heights with Tunguska into a dead striped-ass baboon dedication. What the hell's going on around here? I'm done.
These guys are from England, and who gives a shit?
Guys are from England.
I would like to recommend an album that you get on Bandcamp or CD or cassette called DJ Jester is for the Children. And it's a mix. Basically, it's a mix CD, which you can get on Bandcamp. And DJ Jester is a fantastic turntablist or DJ. And he basically mixes things that are on record or record format, or even, I guess, these days you can do MP3s and what into each other. And he's pretty eclectic in what he meshes. And so on this particular mix, he's heavy on using children's records, which I appreciate. I like, and it's pretty, but it's pretty cool. I think it's, as he says, it's for adults as well, more than just for children. Check it out.
I feel like suing the Catholic Church now.
I'd like to recommend buy yourself some new shoes. You know, if you those shoes you're wearing, they might be getting a little worn there, so treat yourself to a new pair of shoes. I haven't gotten any new shoes yet, but I just know somebody out there is listening or watching, and they're debating whether they should get new shoes. Go for it. Also, I have to get all three of these kids new shoes before school.
Maybe he needs new shoes.
Shoes are so expensive. The bastards are always stealing them.
Move to Holland, get them wooden shoes.
I'd also like to recommend a song called No More Hollow Doors by a band called Crash Course in Science.
Yes. Philadelphia band, yeah. They came up with they had the great song, It Costs to Be Austere, which is another, yeah.
I only heard this song and it was on PRB, and man, is it fucking good. It's really catchy. It's got a great beat.
Can you dance to it?
What's that?
It's catchy. That's got a good beat. Can you dance to it?
Yeah, you should dance to it. Not when you're driving like I was doing today, but
I've played their stuff several times on my radio show, which is why you people should listen to it.
That's where I got it. This is like a double recommend. This is like a dovetail of your recommendation. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to listen to PRB, but a guy with a soul patch and a Joy Division shirt was in line ahead of me.
Well, thanks everybody. Good answers, good recommendations. Before we go, Joe, would you please introduce your green little friend over there? Who is that?
So this is that's Pickle Rick.
Okay.
Pickle Rick from the Rick and Morty show. It's
Gotcha.
it's Jay's stuffed thing.
Pillow or
I don't know what it is. I guess it's
Pickle Rick. You know what you never see? You never see a Pickle Rick tattoo.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.